Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome you to this afternoon Institute of Directors Gh seminar on rule of fraud, forensic accounting, and forensic auditing in corporate governance. My name is Fred Aheto, the CEO of the Institute of Directors Ghana, and I believe very much that God has given us once again this opportunity for us to sharpen our swords. I will at this stage invite Dr. Rejoice Odondoji Foley, member of the Institute of Directors Ghana, to give us the opening prayer. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. May we kindly be silent and then share a word of prayer. Almighty God, we thank you for a lovely day like this. This afternoon, we've gathered here to learn and get insight on the role of forensic accounting, forensic auditing on corporate governance. We pray that you open our minds and give us that level of understanding that after this session, we can use the skills and knowledge acquired to impact our nation and enhance good corporate governance. In the almighty name of Christ, do I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so very much, Madam Rejoice. Once again, I welcome you all. We are so delighted to gather once again. Indeed, this afternoon, by way of welcoming you to this program, I would like to give some kind of admin information in terms of housekeeping. I would crave your indulgence because it's a virtual event, and for that matter, it's very important that we manage our microphones quite very well. So please do your best to keep your microphones on mute, and also your video cameras, you've got to manage them. I'm very sure that you may not want people to see areas that probably you don't want them to see. And then at the appropriate time, please you switch them on when it becomes necessary. Again, because it's a virtual event, we will also indicate that we have a technical team backing and supporting this program, and that you will see telephone numbers in the chat box. If you're having any challenge, in fact, you are seeing the telephone numbers on your screen. And please, if you're having challenge, you can sort of call, and then you'll be attended to. We want to make sure that you are comfortable, and then also you can participate in this program. Please, the program, the main speaker will present the program, and as he's presenting, please, we expect that we'll give you the opportunity, and when it's finished, we have time to have questions and answers. You can put information or questions or anything that you want to indicate whilst the presentation is going on in the chat box. You can also raise your hand if you need attention. We would want to know who is on the program. And so I would want to plead with all of us that rename your devices. If your device has not got the right name on, kindly rename your device appropriately. And then to ensure that at least we know those who have joined or they are part of the program. Thank you so very much. And let me thank and also welcome council members of the Institute of Directors Ghana, our stakeholders and partners who are also on this program, and our members who have joined us for us to really have this seminar and to, as it were, improve our skill set knowledge in the areas of fraud, forensic accounting, and forensic auditing in relation to corporate governance. As a matter of fact, as directors, senior managers, leaders, it's very important that in a very continuous and continuing way, we continue to sort of learn, we continue to improve the knowledge of what we have. At the moment, all of us are very much aware that under the Act 992 of 2019, the responsibilities of the director have significant and legal implications as well. And for that matter, as an institute, we, by virtue of our mandate, we want to ensure that our members and also the public and those who aspire to be directors and those who are serving on boards continue to sharpen their swords and know what is happening. And for that matter, are able to govern and do what is expected of them as they serve in their various capacities. Thank you so very much, and we welcome you once again. At this stage, I would like to yield and welcome the hardworking president of the Institute of Directors, Ghana, Mr. Roxin Kwesi-Dogbegan Fellow, and also the president of the ACGN to give us an opening remarks. Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. Good afternoon, our distinguished associates, members and fellows of the Institute of Directors, Ghana. I wish to welcome you to the first knowledge sharing session for the year 2022. This afternoon, we are privileged to have Professor Aheto, who is the chair of the Education, Capacity Development and Research Committee, share some perspectives with us on the role of fraud, forensic accounting, and forensic auditing in corporate governance with us. Fellow members, as you are aware, following the transitioning of the Institute as a professional body registered on the 31st August 2022, under the Professional Bodies Registration Act 1973, NRCD 143, the Institute has certain responsibilities and obligations to fulfill. Among others is to ensure our members are well aligned to professional practice and conduct at all times, and the register of members is updated and submitted every year to the Registrar General. To this effect, last year we discussed and adopted our Code of Ethics and our Policy on Continuous Professional Development, CPD, at our members' forum. These policies are in force, and we will crave your indulgence to comply with same accordingly. I'm informed the CPD policy is on our website. Starting this year, members of the Institute will have to demonstrate participation in a continuous professional development activity to qualify for retention as a member of the Institute. The Chief Executive Officer is to ensure the appropriate tools and education is provided to all members for the proper implementation of the CPD policy accordingly. I wish you all a good seminar and be interactive as much as possible. I may not be present throughout the session. I wish you well. Thank you very much and have a good seminar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roxin Dogbegan, President, Institute of Directors, Ghana, and Fellow. We very much appreciate and we thank you for the remarks and the speech that you've given us. And I believe very much that we'll have enough and adequate food for thought what you've shared with us. Thank you so very much, Mr. President. At this stage, I would like to introduce our main speaker for today. He's in the person of Professor John Bright Kobla Aheto. Professor Aheto is a tenured professor with significant experience in both academia and also in industry. Indeed, Professor John Bright Aheto has been in academia since 1971. He spent about 26 years of his life consulting and lecturing in the US, and also has spent a lot of time also on boards. And for that matter, we are very much happy and privileged to have Professor Aheto to be our main speaker for today. Indeed, the areas of expertise of Professor John Bright Aheto: accounting, auditing, law, corporate finance, international finance, corporate governance, critical and innovative thinking, strategic management, fraud and forensic accounting, and auditing. Indeed, Prof has served on many boards and he continues to teach and lecture and also consult. He's also a fellow of the Institute of Directors, Ghana, and is a member of council. Ladies and gentlemen, our main speaker for this afternoon, Professor John Bright Kobla Aheto. Prof, I yield to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, CEO, and fellow members of IoD, I thank you very much for the opportunity to interact with you today. The topic for today, the role of fraud, forensic accounting and forensic auditing in corporate governance. The topic, the larger topic, which is forensic accounting, fraud, forensic accounting, and forensic auditing, is a master's program that the ECDR has come up with, serialized, and is going to be part of our short courses that is going to take, be spread over 2 months. So this particular topic is just the introduction so that we are introduced to it. In terms of coverage, we are going to cover, number one, the introduction and definitions. We'll cover that. We'll deal with also what we call the fraud triangle. The fraud triangle. And we are going to deal with the fraud tree. We will deal with the red flags, some aspects of the red flags. We will mention prevention, detection, and management of fraud. But if you had wanted to do the whole thing, it may take even 2 days for us as a CPD program. But we are going to deal with the introduction, maybe later on in other sessions, we'll deal with the other issues. So, but today we are going to do the introduction in very important definitions, fraud triangle, fraud tree, and red flags. If you have time, we'll deal with top level fraud or fraud committed by top level people. I am given only maximum 1 hour to make my presentation, and there'll be 30 minutes of question and answer session. Management is going to work on it and see how we can, not in the future, if you cannot increase. Question is this: what is fraud? We have a lot of various definitions. The legal definition usually refers to a situation where a person makes a material false statement to somebody, and the person relied on it, on the financial statement, to his detriment and a loss. The person who made the statement may benefit as a result. That may be the purpose for which he made the statement. He expects the person to rely on it, and the person might have relied on it. In essence, we have criminal benefits. We have criminal issues that will result. That is what we are dealing with. We have issues like the criminal benefits, arson, and a lot of other aspects. So we will discuss those as we look at the definitions. The question is, what is fraud? We are going to look at about 6, 7 different definitions by different authorities. In law, the first thing we look at is the Black's Law Dictionary, which defines fraud as all multifarious means which human ingenuity can devise or has devised, and which are resorted to by one individual to his advantage and to the disadvantage of the other person. All multifarious means which human ingenuity can devise and which are resorted to by one individual to get an advantage over another by false suggestions or suppression of the truth, knowing fully well that the other person will rely on it. Another definition: a knowing representation of the truth a knowing misrepresentation of the truth, or the concealment of a material fact done to induce another person to act to his or her detriment. It could be a tort, which would be a civil matter, or it could be a criminal matter. The US Supreme Court has a definition. Theirs is civil fraud. First, that the defendant has made a representation in regard to a material fact. Second, that such a representation is false. Third, that such representation was not actually believed by the defendant and on a reasonable grounds to be true. Fourth, that it was made with the intention that it should be acted on. Fifth, that it was acted on by the complainant to his damage or disadvantage. And sixth, that in so acting on the information, the complainant was ignorant of its foregoing requirements and excludes such statements as consist merely in an expression of opinion, of judgment, honesty, entertained, and the owner and the vendor of the property in respect of its value acted on it. The Federal Bureau of Investigation also offers a definition. The FBI, their definition is, it's applicable to today, the schemes we have today. And generally is understood that it also applies and incorporates the elements recognized over the centuries. It talks about lying, cheating, stealing. It includes even white-collar crime. In a nutshell, the term reportedly coined in 1939 is now synonymous with the full range of frauds committed by businesses and governments, professionals and corporates, and the various scams that we are subjected to today. They came up with the idea that fraud is not a victimless crime, because a lot of fraudsters say nobody will be hurt. Who is going to be hurt? So it is not a victimless crime. A single scam can therefore destroy even a company. It can devastate even a nation, can devastate families by wiping out their lifetime savings and assets. Or it can cost investors billions of dollars, billions of cedis, or it can cost even the nation. And one of the celebrated cases is Enron. Today's fraud schemes are more sophisticated than ever before. They are becoming more sophisticated by the day. And we are dedicated to using our skills to track down the perpetrator. That is one of the basic reasons for this particular training. The SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission of the US, also provided a definition. It said as it applies to transactions involving securities. Although the law governs securities, the principles invoked reiterate the constellation of ideas central to definition of fraud in a broader context. For them, their definition is based upon the 1934 Act, Section 10b(5), which states, it shall be unlawful for any person, directly or indirectly, by the use of any means or instrumentality of interstate commerce, or the mails, or of any facility of any national securities exchange, unlawful for any person, directly or indirectly, by the use of any means or instrumentality of interstate commerce, or mails, or of any facility of any national securities exchange. Ghana, we have only one. Other countries, they have two, they have three. It says fraud is an intentionally deceptive action designed to provide the perpetrator with an unlawful personal gain or to deny a right to a victim. Types of fraud include tax fraud, credit card fraud, wire fraud, securities fraud, bankruptcy fraud, identity theft fraud, and so many, many others. One of the gurus, Wells, defined fraud as any crime which uses deception as its main modus operandi. The Oxford Dictionary also gave us a definition. It talks about fraud as a wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain to somebody. So from the above definitions, we have three main elements, essential, necessary, and essential elements in fraud. Number one, fraud by false pretense or by false representation, fraud by failing to disclose relevant information, and fraud by abuse of position. In a similar vein, Farrell also notes fraud can be perpetrated in three clearly defined ways. These are by false representation, by use of your position, or by failure to disclose. Fraud is often interpreted through synthetic identities, perpetrated through synthetic identities, customer account takeover, nefarious applications, digital payments, and authentication, procurement, and other financial crimes. It involves the making of false representation of failing to disclose relevant information or the abuse of your position in order to make a financial gain or appropriate other people's assets. That is fraud. The other thing is, what is forensic? Forensic is defined as relating to or denoting the application of scientific methods and techniques to the investigation of crime. That's getting forensic evidence relating to cause of law, something that to stand up in a court of law. Forensic definition is relating to relating to or denoting the application of scientific methods and techniques to the investigation of crime, forensic evidence, that is gathering forensic evidence, and being an expert witness in court with regard to that evidence and the investigation that you did, relating to courts of law. So anything that will be admissible in court of law based upon your investigation is forensic. So when we are talking about forensic accounting, forensic auditing, we are talking about situations where you, as an expert in forensic accounting and forensic auditing, will become an expert witness in court of law based upon the work that you have done. Forensic accounting utilizes accounting, auditing, and investigative skills of the accountant to conduct an examination into the finances of an individual or business. Forensic accounting provides an accounting analysis suitable to be used in legal proceedings. For forensic accountants, they have to be trained to actually look beyond the numbers and deal with the business reality of the situation. Forensic accounting is frequently used in fraud and embezzlement cases to explain the nature of financial crime in courts. You'll be surprised, you go to court and there is a spouse, a female spouse. The husband may think that he's hiding things, but the forensic accountants, the forensic auditors will go and do the investigation and come and reveal everything, every asset that the husband or the wife is hiding. So when you go to court, you hear a lot about forensic accounting, forensic auditing, embezzlement, fraud, deceit, concealment, and so on. So also, Internal Revenue Service, so also Ghana Revenue Authority, they engage in auditing the tax returns of different people. They look at the red flags. They look at the red flags, which give taxpayers out, and they will pick you up and audit you, either randomly or based upon specific tip-offs. There was a case in University of Ghana. The hospital made an investment, and at the end of the year, the instrument, the security representing the investment was in the central office, not in the hospital's books. The hospital reported revenue, but the instrument itself could not be found in their premises. The instrument was actually sent to the head office, recorded in the head office as an investment of the central university. But if this is your investment, then where is the revenue? You should also show the revenue, but the revenue was not there. It was a serious issue. What is forensic auditing? A forensic audit is an examination and evaluation of a firm's or an individual financial records. During a forensic audit, an auditor seeks to derive evidence that could potentially be used in court of law. A forensic audit is used to uncover criminal behavior such as fraud, concealment, or embezzlement. That is forensic audit. It is an audit, it's an examination, it's an investigation, an evaluation of a firm's or an individual financial record. during a forensic audit, the auditor seeks to derive evidence, gather evidence that could potentially be used in court. A forensic audit is used to uncover criminal behavior, activities, or actions such as fraud, concealment, and embezzlement. Those are very serious definitions. There is something you call fraud triangle. Fraud triangle. A triangle has 3 axes. Number 1 is opportunity. Number 2 is incentive. Number 3 is rationalization. People engage in fraud if these 3 things are true. Another rendition is fraud triangle is based upon opportunity, pressure, rationalization. It's just like the previous one, but here we are using the word pressure as opposed to what we have over here, the incentive. You must have an incentive. So it is opportunity, rationalization, and pressure. When those 3 things happen, fraud will take place. And we are going to look at those 3 things. First, let's look at opportunity. An opportunity is likely to occur when there are weaknesses in the internal control framework or structure, or when a person abuses a position of trust. For example, organizational expediency. Top management will say it is this particular project. It's a high profile project, and it is a rush project, and we had to cut corners. That is coming from top level management. At times, when we are downsizing, that downsizing provides opportunity for a lot of wrong things to take place. Downsizing means there are fewer people, fewer employees. So therefore, separation of duties may no longer be as feasible or as scientifically done as would be the case if you have enough people. We are laying off people. We don't have adequate people. Or business re-engineering brought in by new application systems that challenge the control environment, removing some of the key checks and balances. Again, we need to be very careful that when we are laying off people, we are actually sacrificing people who can take part in the control environment. It also means that when we are having a brand new system installed, that is the time a lot of havoc takes place. Some people may be still using the old system while others are using the new system. It creates room under the guise of, oh, I don't know. Oh, we are learning. Well, we are getting acquainted to the system. A lot of fraud takes place when we are changing systems, because either people actually honestly did not understand the new system and they did not know how to use it well. And we are not dealing with parallel change, but we are just cutting off the old one and we are starting the new one. It might be important for us to do a parallel introduction of a new system. We keep the old, then we introduce the new for some time before we cut off the old. Otherwise, we don't know whether whatever we are getting from the new is the best, it is the correct thing we should get. But if you do them parallel, the old system is there and we can use its result to compare to the new one. So organizational expediency that top management can always use to engage in fraudulent activities. Downsizing also provides avenues for employees or for the system to be abused. Business re-engineering can also bring in new applications, new system, and that change will result in some loss of control framework and removing some of the key checks and balances that we are used to. We may not be used to the new checks and balances, but since the old system is completely gone, we have a problem. Pressure. The pressures are usually financial in nature. The pressure on the fraudulent person, but it's not always true. For example, unrealistic corporate targets and expectation can encourage a salesperson or a production manager to commit fraud. All of a sudden, the target we are given is unrealistic. The only thing going to happen is we are going to cheat. We are going to falsify record to make sure that, yes, especially if it goes with bonus or whatever it is, profit sharing, stock ownership plans, and the target is really unrealistic. If it's unrealistic, people are going to falsify. And if the internal control system is not strong, we will not be able to capture the falsified records. Let's say we used to produce 100 units. Now you say we should produce 250. And 100 units, we were struggling to do it, now 250. I'm not going to complain. I'm going to do the best I can. But I'm going to make sure that I accomplish. I'm going to falsify a lot of things. There are times also where the desire for revenge. Somebody feels that he has been overlooked for promotion. Somebody thinks that the boss is marginalizing him, and he wants to prove, can engage in fraudulent issues. So, perceive our actual wrong or poor self-esteem. I also want to appear as I know what I'm doing. I want to win the recognition. This can result in fraud, where people are falsifying, making believe, and at any cost, they want to appear as. We also know, when there is a threatened layoff, people may falsify things in order to appear as they are producing, and they should not be fired. Also, examples of non-financial pressures that can lead to fraud. Not only financial pressures, but non-financial pressures can lead to fraud. That's what we call pressure. That's the pressure on you, which motivates you to engage. Rationalization. Rationalizing it away. In the criminal's mind, rationalization usually includes the belief that the activity is not criminal after all. Or he takes it that it is not criminal, everybody is doing it. The criminal often feels that everyone else is doing it, or that no one will get hurt. No one will know. No one will know. This is just a temporary thing. I will pay it back. I will bring it back. However, various studies have shown that the removal of that rationalization may also be something that may not lead to fraud. So therefore, rationalization at the second act is also very important, in the sense that if we give people the chance to rationalize, they will get the motivation to commit fraud. The person will get involved and they will deal with fraud, they'll commit fraud. This means that left alone, fraud will continue and the losses will increase. There is no such thing as a fraud that has reached its maturity. Fraud, to the extent it's not detected, to the extent it's not prevented, will continue. Will continue. So therefore, fraud, which is fed by greed, and greed is never satisfied. Greed is never satisfied. Rich people are still stealing. Rich people are still trying to find ways where they can make more money. So therefore, the rationalization is that it's everybody is doing it. Nobody will know. Who else will know? Nobody will get hurt. If I steal Ghana's money, who is going to get hurt? The money you stole can be used to provide medical equipment to some poor children. It can be used to provide educational material to some poor child. So directly, you may not see the hurt, but indirectly and even directly, there is the hurt to citizens, to people, to some poor people. But you want to rationalize it away. Fraud 3, a very mighty tree, big tree, lot of branches. Let's look at the fraud 3. If you look at the top, the fraud 3 has 3 elements. Number 1, when we talk about fraud, we are talking about corruption. We are talking about asset misappropriation, asset of the company. And we are talking about fraudulent statements. Fraudulent statements. Those are the 3 major elements. If we take corruption, corruption has 3 elements or 3 wings, 4 wings. That is corruption. The corruption is something that we know, most people know as fraud. The elements or the arms of corruption are conflict of interest, bribery, illegal gratuities, and extortion. Corruption involves 4 things. Conflict of interest, which we discussed in module 2, module 1, bribery, illegal gratuities, getting something that you did not work for, and economic extortion. If you take it one by one, under conflict of interest, we have discussed conflict of interest in various areas, purchases, sales, and other areas. Conflict of interest comes. Bribery takes place as an incentive kickback, bid rigging, and other aspects. We look at illegal gratuities. Somebody paid you something, gave you something that you should know clearly is supposed to corrupt you. Economic extortion, that is corruption. If we go to the very end, fraudulent statements. These statements may be fraudulent in the sense that they may be financial in nature or they may not be financial in nature. Financial statements may be disclosures, may be recording transactions or not recording transactions, may be inflating transactions, and so on. So, if it's financial in nature, we are dealing with asset revenue overstatement. Overstatement of assets, overstatement of revenue, deliberately. It's very easy to overstate asset and revenue. Debit account receivable, credit revenue. That's it, bingo. Debit account receivable, credit revenue. You increase revenue, you increase your profit. The account receivable eventually, sooner than later, in the long run, will become a problem because you cannot collect that amount. You may be forced to write it off. So writing off account receivable is a serious issue. It should be authorized by the board of directors. The reason why we are writing off must be clearly stated. We may provide for it, but for us to write it off, in certain jurisdictions, you have to show that you went to court, you tried to collect, and at least 3 years has passed, you went to court, but you could not collect. That's very important. But when we are talking about financial statements, and the issue is financial in nature, we are talking about the revenue record. That is a very, very popular way of making fraudulent statements. It's very easy. Nobody will know. Non-financial statements. When we look at employment credentials, we are looking at internal documents. We are looking at external documents. People can fabricate documents. They can create false documents. And based upon that, annual reports may be based upon that. In an annual report, it is not only financial figures. There are some disclosures that are made. So therefore, that is the second wing. The third wing of the fraud 3 is asset misappropriation. As you can see, it has a huge stem. Asset misappropriation. The most important one is cash. Cash is very fungible, so cash. And there are 3 areas where cash could be compromised. And again, looking at asset misappropriation, we can look at non-cash, especially inventory, and all other assets. Inventory, all other assets. We are looking at larcening, asset misuse of the assets. But as you can see, the most important, the largest area in misappropriation of assets is cash. When we look at cash, there are a lot of things that could happen to cash. We talk about larcening, we talk about skimming, we talk about lapping, we talk about refunds, undeserved refunds, we talk about write-offs, we talk about any way that we can just deliberately steal money. If you remember, there was a case some years ago involving the Controller and Accountant General's Department. There was a guy there. When people write check to pay their taxes, and they write I, full stop, R, full stop, S, full stop, the guy took advantage. He went to a bank and opened an account, and the name was R, full stop, R, full stop, Siaw, S-I-A-W. So a lot of people innocently were writing IRS, IRS, IRS. They made a check to, that time we had IRS, not GRA. So he would take the check and go and deposit it. He would change the S to Siaw, S-I-A-W. The banker is not supposed to determine whether or not the signature is the same or the writing is the same. All that is said is I-R-Siaw. billions, those days, billions of cedis were involved before he was caught. Billions. So after that, the rule was no longer IRS. Write it out completely and fully. It was a big deal in Ghana. It was a big deal in Ghana. So therefore, cash is a serious issue. And as you can see, there are so many things under cash. Cash is the easiest thing to steal. Yeah, you can steal inventory, but you need collaboration with some other people. That is what you call the fraud 3. I wish when you go home, you take your time and look at this very critically. Make a copy, look at it very critically. That is the fraud 3. Please, any comment, any questions before we leave the fraud 3, because it's a very important topic.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Prof is asking any question. We'll take probably a few questions, then we will continue. Please, if you want to speak, kindly lift your hand. You use the technology accordingly, and then we'll call you. Thank you. Any comment? So Dr. Rejoice, you have the floor. Kindly unmute yourself and speak. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that insightful information. My question is about the non-financial fraud. Are there any strategies in place to empower executives in managing non-financial fraud? Because the focus of most people is on the financial fraud. However, per the discussion or what you have just taken us through, non-financial fraud is critical because that leads to most of the financial frauds. So what are the strategies in place to empower executives to manage this within corporate governance perspective? Thank you.
The very first one is a very sound and well-resourced internal control system, internal audit system, because they are supposed to deal with the operational issues, not necessarily only financial issues, but operational issues, the system, the processes that we use. That is the reason why we need to have a very well-resourced internal audit system, internal control systems, and periodically audit the internal control system and the internal audit system. Make sure that the internal audit system is manned by people who are qualified, not only accountants, because internal audit is not only accountants. Internal audit is all functional areas of the organization. There's human resource, there is project management, there is procurement, there is sale, a lot. But unfortunately, we tend to man internal audit departments with only accountants. It's a big mistake. Finance people are needed. Project management people are needed. Human resource is needed. Legal is needed. Economics are needed. Scientists are needed. IT people are needed. And for you to actually say you have empowered top-level management, the first thing is properly resource the internal audit department with qualified, diversified background and competencies. And the internal audit department has internal audit charter. And in that charter, there is a provision that says internal auditors can never be prevented from doing their job. They must have unlimited access to every record, every document, every person that is in the organization that they deem very important to talk to and to look at in order to do their job. That is, nobody else has that provision but internal audit. Nobody should limit what they want to do. Nobody should prevent them from having an access to anybody, any document, any record, any system that they deem important and needed by them to actually perform their audit. Nobody tells them what to do. They have their own plan. It's only the board of directors, you, who must approve their plan on annual basis and provide them all the resources that they need, independent of the CEO. The internal audit does not fall under the CEO. It's an independent wing. Otherwise, the CEO will be intimidating them. Internal audit does not report to the CEO. They report directly to the Audit and Assurance Committee, and from there to the board as a whole. That is one way in which authority is given to various departments, especially the internal audit department.
Right. Thank you so very much. I believe we'll take one more question and then Prof will continue. At this stage, I'll call on Mr. Emmanuel Ankama to make his contribution or probably a question, and then we will continue. Thank you very much. Mr. Ankama. Kindly unmute yourself and then carry on appropriately. Thank you.
Okay, forms of fraud. Fraud can encompass waste and abuse, improper payments, money laundering.
Can you hear me now?
Terrorist financing. Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay. Prof, I say thanks for the excellent presentation. Sometimes
thank you.
Sometimes we have these good, strong internal controls, but we still have the fraud. And
yeah,
I think when collusion is there, they can bypass the fraud.
Yeah,
they can bypass the system.
That's absolutely true. When the top executives, when they are also involved.
Go ahead. Because the lady that asked about the non-financial people, I think these days they have been committing the fraud long ago, but the emphasis is on the financial side. Yeah, because I have experience where before I get the invoice, we have a contract that we hire equipment, and we pay based on hours used. Okay, and before the invoice come, the production manager and the contractor they meet and inflate the number of hours used. So they just multiply by the rate per hour, and the invoice is sent to me. Okay. So that is a significant amount of money was going away from there, but nobody would detect until the contractor fired his foreman. And then the foreman decided to blow the whistle. Okay, and the foreman decided to blow the whistle, but he demanded $40,000 that if we pay him $40,000 in Tanzania. And he demanded $40,000 and said, if we can pay him $40,000, he'll give us information that we can recover more than $5 million. And we tried it and we paid. And then he gave us the original machine hours.
Wow.
And against the cook machine hours. But this is the situation when you have a executive production director with the contractor. So sometimes what I want to say that the emphasis is on financial, but the non-financial, they are worse off. And so long as there is collusion, it's difficult for the controls to detect. That's what I want to say. So what do we do?
Worse off.
Yeah, what do we do?
You know, as board members, now that we have come up with the module 8, integrity. In everything we do, the watchword is integrity. There is collusion, there is circumvention, there is a lot of ways that top level management find a way that other people find a way of going through or going around and committing fraud. But if we have integrity at the front of everything we do, as the foundation upon which everything is done, we can, and even it's not even a question of, oh, let me go and get the Catholic fathers, the Catholic nuns. That is not the issue. Let me go and get the religious people. No, they commit more fraud than even the people who are from the Trokoshi houses, because those people, they are afraid. As Rollins says, come, I'll take you to Nogoko and we'll see if you can lie there. But after the church, we are going there, we are lying. We are lying to even the father. The father himself is even lying. So the thing is integrity. Integrity, to the extent that we as board members, we can make integrity our watchword. That is the only way everything we are talking about here will make relevance to anybody. Thank you, Mr. Ankama. Types of fraud. Fraud can be committed in different ways and different settings or different environments. There is fraud going on. Actually, there was fraud that went on in the Vatican. Fraud went on in the Vatican. The chairman of the Vatican Bank was in jail because they stole money. Right now, there was a case of nearly 500 million euros stolen in the Vatican system. So it is not religious, it's not anything, but it is integrity. And the question is, how do we ensure that integrity? How do we make sure that people live above morality and ethics? That's why code of ethics is very, very important. Very, very important. Other examples of fraud in banking include the use of malicious applications, the use of false identities, money laundering, credit card fraud, and mobile fraud, insurance fraud, which includes premium diversion, premium inflation, which is the embezzlement of insurance premiums, or free churning, which is massive trading by a broker to maximize only commission, even though the revenue may not be collected. There are a lot of salespeople, they go and sell to anybody. If commission is based upon sales, not the amount collected. So a lot of organizations, one of which I work for as a consultant, they were basing commissions on sales made, and they were not collecting. So we changed it from collection. Your commission will be based upon what you collect. And it was, that particular bad debt was completely stopped. I remember way back in 1978 in the US, I made a deposit into a savings account and I did not open the deposit slip. I just put it into my passbook and I went away. 2 years after, I came to the bank. I want to make a deposit. You know, those days we didn't have mobile phones. Nobody would call you. And then all that I heard was, hey, we have been looking for you. You are the one we have been looking for. I was really scared. I was really scared. What is the problem? Oh, when they were doing reconciliation on this day, they realized that instead of $790 deposit, they made it $7,900. And they were looking for me. And it's like there's nothing I could have done. The system was such that it had it recorded and it kept it. And anytime I came and there was going to be any transaction, the very first press of the button will give them the alert. Will give them the alert and so on. But it was not deliberate. They realized that I did not even unfold their deposit slip. I did not even look at it. So they say, oh, it's nothing. We realize that it's not deliberate. It's not your fault. It is our fault. But if you had known about it, we were expecting you to come back and own up, but it was not the case. There are certain types of fraud. We don't have it so much in Ghana. Arson. I have a house, old house. I have some equipment. I have some things. Then I set fire to my own house after insuring it. That is arson, very much in the Western world. Government fraud. You know what? There's a lot of fraud taking place in the government sector, much more so than in the private sector. This includes billing for unnecessary procedures, overcharging for items that cost much, much less, providing old equipment when billing for a new equipment, reporting hours worked as worked, but which were not actually worked. Healthcare fraud, which includes drug fraud and medication fraud and services rendered fraud as health insurance fraud. You know, when we started our health insurance, some doctors were seriously engaged in fraud. They thought the system would not catch them. They thought the moment they put in the claim, they will be paid. No. They were not being paid because they were doing investigation. And it was taking time for the investigation. So there was a delay in paying them, or there were delays in paying them. They thought it was due to the inefficiency of the system. No, it was because they had to investigate and make sure before they paid them. A lot of them took advantage. But the system, as basic, as new as it was, the people who were managing it had the experience from somewhere else before they came to work on it. Now it looks like it's a little bit better. Why does fraud happen? We talk about it. There are 3 levels: opportunity, rationalization, and pressure. Now, fraud happens. Fraud investigators talk about the 10%, 80%, and 10% law. 10%, 80%, 10% law. This means that 10% of people will never commit fraud, never. But 80% of the people will commit fraud under the right and most appropriate circumstances. And the other 10%, they are actively looking out for opportunities for fraud, to commit fraud. So we need to be vigilant for the 10% who are actively looking to commit fraud. We also need to be vigilant to make sure that the 80% does not get the opportunity to be tempted to commit the fraud. 10%, 80%, and 10% law. In our organization, we are being told, and in your organization, 10% of the people in that organization will never commit fraud. 80%, when the opportunity arises and it is appropriate situation, they will commit fraud. They just need something to trigger them. And there is another 10% that will never commit fraud. So the 10%, 80%. So as board members, you need to know who you are dealing with. You need to know your top executives. You need to know your people who are in charge of things. You need to be careful about managers who are too authoritative, too bossy, too arrogant, and too intimidating. Be very careful about them. You need to investigate them. You need to investigate them because they think they can intimidate the people who are working for them. They want to cow them. We need to be very careful about that. Generally, fraud occurs because of a combination of opportunity, pressure, rationalization. An opportunity arises when the person feels that the fact is not, the act is not direct, entirely wrong, and has pressure pushing him to commit the fraud. We need to make sure that we do lifestyle audit to know our people, the lifestyle that they live. Some of them, the lifestyle they live is beyond the salaries that they make. It's beyond the salaries that they make. And you are working in the same civil service with them. So how come they are living that style? Flashy cars, 2, 3 houses in East Legon, and you are all civil servants. You all started working together. What is the problem? I know a church leader. Whenever he gets money, he does not care. He just put the money, and his children will go and steal the money. His children, when he was alive, hey, they were winning lotto right and left. When they steal the money, they say they win lotto. When they steal the money, then they'll say they won lotto. Now, the leader is no more. There is no more winning of lotto. The opportunity must be there for there to be commission of fraud. Instances of fraud, as you can see, 69% of the instances is asset misappropriation. 28% is accounting fraud. 22%, we are looking at bribery and corruption. 6%, 5%, 5%, those are very minute. But the most important one is asset misappropriation. Accounting fraud, which may include cash, and bribery and corruption. Instances of fraud, again, when you look at it, internally, a lot of fraud happened because of internal people, 57%. Externally, maybe 39%. This is not Ghana. Externally, you look at what you have. Internally, you look at what you have. So let's be very careful. Let's be very careful. Globally, internal source of fraud, that's 50%. Globally. And in the UK itself, you are looking at 52%. We don't have those statistics in Ghana to use. Instances of fraud, government corporations. Government corporations. Senior staff, junior staff, all industries, government institutions versus all other institutions. So you can see government, very high. Senior staff. So for us, when we are talking about investigation of fraud, senior staff should be the people we should actually be focusing on more than the junior staff. The junior staff is afraid to lose his job, but the senior staff, they can falsify records, they can cook books, they can do whatever. They know people. The PPA boss knows people. So he's still walking around. Junior staff is afraid, as we say. Government organization, junior staff engage in a lot of fraud. But for them, it's the petty fraud. But they take a pen. They take a pen home. Just like today, the CEO is going to take a pen home. But the pen, he knows that the pen is not his. He's going to take a pen home. Celestia is going to take a pen home. So we have these instances of fraud. The most surprising part, which should not actually be, is that top management commits most fraud. Top management commits fraud. And they have so many ways of committing fraud, concealing it, hiding it, making sure nobody talks about it. So we need to worry about top management fraud. Top executives, their fraud refers to the deliberate actions taken by top management at any level to deceive, to con, to swindle, or to cheat investors or other key stakeholders. This fraud can take many forms, including embezzlement, insider trading, self-dealing, lying about facts, falsification, alterations, failure to disclose facts, corruption, and even cover-up. We are going to look at the last issue. We call it red flags. What are the red flags? What are the fingerprints that we can take and look at and use it to detect and trace the criminals? Red flags. What are the red flags? What are the things that actually speak loud? So red flags are used in this presentation as a synonym for, quote, fingerprints of fraud. When fraud occurs, there are traces of the criminal and the crime left at the scene of the crime, or the fraudster's life, much like fingerprints that may be left at the crime scene. Red flags have varying natures and include things such as an accounting anomaly, an unexplained transaction or event, unusual elements of a transaction, a person's behavior changes or character or characteristics, or just simple characteristics commonly associated with known fraud, especially certain individual schemes or group of schemes. That is what you call red flag. Every crime has a red flag, either by the criminal or by something that gives him away. The cornerstone of effective audit and detection of fraud is in this particular session. The fundamentals provide information about the fraud investigation process itself. The concepts introduced in this session will help you to explain the fraud basics, the basics of the fraud, such as why is fraud committed, and the fraud triangle. All of those are red flags. They are red flags. Living above your means provides a red flag. Fraud theory provides such statistics with identifying the most likely fraud scheme and how it might have been committed. So obviously, such a thought process requires not only a good understanding of all the fraud schemes, but even how it's committed and how can we detect it? How can we trace the criminal? That is what we got red flag. Careful analytical review of the fraud three, the schemes and the fraud triangle will bring to mind applicable red flags. For example, in the fraud scheme of lapping, of skimming, of theft, there is always a method that we can use to detect who committed the fraud, the crime. And if it's a major issue, then lifestyle change is very important. And that's therefore very important that we do lifestyle audits, The board of directors must periodically do some lifestyle audits of certain people whose lifestyle has significantly changed without any reasonable explanation where they get more revenue from or more assets from. It's something that we need to do. The perpetrator always has to intercept concepts. There was a time, way back, 1990 something, a man came to a training. We were doing internal audit, came to the training and bragged about one of his employees. Does not like to go on vacation and always works the first to come in, the last to go out, and does not even want to take his vacation. I say, my friend, go right now. Let him go, take his vacation, and make sure he doesn't touch the computer when you ask him to go on leave. Call him to your office, tell him that he's going to go on vacation right now. All vacation that he has not taken, and make sure that he does not touch his computer. You will not be surprised what was found out. Emails. Oh, you are supposed to send me 5 cartons. You send only 2, and you are supposed to do this. You have not done this. You have not done this. He was able to be exposed. He was always sitting on information, fraudulent information, shipping supplies way beyond what the people were asking for, writing off indebtedness. It was a good lesson for him. It was a good lesson for him. That's a red flag. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave the rest with you because the time given me, I've exceeded it. And we normally don't like to exceed our time. I have only 1 more minute. Anybody has a question, comment, observation? If you allow me, let's take 5 minutes to take our final questions, comments, and observations. 5 minutes. Any comment, remarks, observations, suggestions? 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Prof. I'm sure we'll take remarks, observations. Please feel free. We have on there Mr. Gilbert Awasi. Mr. Gilbert Awasi, please go for it. And then after Mr. Gilbert Awasi, I think Madam Clara Quay will then come after, and then we'll have Mr. Julius Abo also come in next. So, Mr. Awasi, please go for it.
Okay, thank you very much for a brilliant presentation this afternoon. I quickly want to comment on the lifestyle audit. It will be interesting to note that you have to also consider that the person might be working, having a side work, or the person must also be inheriting some funds from their parents. If you look at the Act 550 of the asset declaration, I want to know what is the institute doing, the Institute of Directors doing to strengthen the governance structure when it comes to asset declaration. What is the institute doing? Because you realize that asset declaration is not adhered to the institutions. So I want to know the role of Institute of Directors. What are they doing to strengthen the governance structure of institutions, precisely public institutions? Thank you.
The issue is board of directors, if they see a red flag in somebody, they have the right to do lifestyle audit. Yes, there is an issue of individual rights, infringement of rights, and so on. But the fact is, this thing can be done privately, it can be done publicly, but we have a reason to suspect. We have if there is no reason, you just come and provide us the reasons why your sources of those funds. We are only going by your salary that you have declared. You're a full-time employee. You have not told us, you have not declared any conflict of interest or any other source of work that you are doing. We don't know nothing about it. So come, we'll give you the chance to explain yourself. But we cannot shy away from doing lifestyle audit. If we as a board, we have a reason to suspect, or internal auditors have a reason to suspect that this person may be living above or beyond his means.
Right, thank you. I should go to the next question. Before we go, I think
my question is hello, sorry for intercepting. My question is in twofold. This last part is not answered. The role of the Institute of Directors with regards to asset declaration to strengthen the governance structure.
Fantastic. I'll take that one. I'm the CEO, and so I'll take that one. The role of the Institute in this direction will be one, advocacy, will be two, training, and then also to sort of let the public and our members and those who are aspiring to become directors to also realize that within the corporate governance space, once we expect that good corporate governance practices are what you would have to go by, and also your code of ethics, you must also obey the rules and the regulations. And so if there's asset declaration, then what that it means here is that those operating in that space, the legal framework following that, as an institute, we want to really highlight and train, and also like this program that we are doing. This afternoon, having a seminar on fraud, forensic auditing, and forensic accounting, is to basically educate our members and also educate the public of what they are expected to do. So for the institute, there's so much we can do in terms of advocacy, training, and research, because we don't have the legal framework to enforce asset declaration, but to basically highlight and also provide a platform for what's similar to what we are doing today. Thank you very much. At this stage, we will let Madam Clara come in with a question, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Prof, for a very well presented topic. Of course, it's a very important topic, especially in our society, I guess. I'm not sure mine is even a question or a comment, or it's probably both. We talked about having an effective internal control systems in place. And Dr. Rejoice even talked about the non-financial strategy. but we also are aware that, you know, all these don't work in isolation. Integrity, in my view, is key to making sure that the systems, both the non-financial and the financial one, works. Now, my question then is, how do we teach integrity? That's a question for you, Prof. Thank you.
Madam.
Yes, Prof.
I am saying that we have just developed a new model on corporate governance and integrity. And when we roll it out, the course will be both theory and more casework. Cases. You give the people who take part in casework, it's a case. You are going to work on only cases during that particular course. So we will, you know, it's very difficult to teach ethics. It's very, very difficult to teach ethics.
Okay.
But when we deal with casework and people are working on cases, their weaknesses will be exposed. They themselves will see it. It's not easy to teach ethics at all. It's not easy. I agree with you. It's not easy, but we cannot give up. We should make the attempt. We should make the attempt.
Thank you very much. At this stage, we will call Mr. Julius Abel to make his contribution.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Prof, it's wonderful listening to you once again. And thanks for the insightful presentation. My question is on the tendency to be corrupt. Is it a matter of it being innate, or is it that we are more often coerced into it?
Thank you.
I'm asking that the tendency for one to be fraudulent, is it more of it being innate, or
please repeat that?
I'm saying that the tendency to be corrupt or the tendency to be fraudulent, is it a matter that is it an innate thing, or is it that we are more often coerced into it from your experience?
Is it more what?
Innate. Is this something that it's part of us?
Remember the rule I gave you. It is 10,
yes,
it is 10, 80, 10. It is 10, 80, 10, 10, 80, 10. Yes. 80% of the people are waiting for the opportunity. When it is right, they will be corrupt. Even the cardinals in the Vatican Bank.
If that is the case, are we not fighting a losing battle?
No, we are not. We can't give up. We can't give up. That's the easiest thing to do, is to give up. You are the ambassadors. We are the ambassadors. And you are going to be advocates. But we cannot give up. You know, there are a lot of time people are stealing. They are being jailed. But, you know, the police are still doing their job. We are not fighting. No, your children may disrespect what you are saying, but you still keep on advising them. So we can't give up. Good. We just need to tighten our belt and go to bat.
So at this stage, we call
it may look like a losing. It may look like a losing battle, but it's not.
At this stage, we call on Mr. Kobla AJ, and then Mr. Clifford Ajade will go.
Thank you very much, Mr. CEO, and I'm very, very grateful to you, Prof, on this topic. My issue is on the internal control system. Yes, you highlighted that mainly now you could see that most of this internal control system is being headed by accounting professionals. And you highlighted that economists, HR specialists, and other professionals can equally take that position. I just want to know, what are we doing to embrace this kind of idea that you are bringing? Because I can say that maybe the accountants may be one of our problems in these fraudulent activities in corporate system. So if we change the system, like you can see that anytime there is an employment for internal control head, the criteria is mainly based on accounting professionals. Others are excluded. I just want your mind on this. Thank you very much, Prof.
I wish you were with us when we made the AU people. There was a lady there who was so adamant about accountants, everything accountants, everything accountants. This thing should be done by the finance person, but everything accountant. I understood what she was saying. So it is very important that if you ask anybody in RCAG, I always tell them, internal audit is not a preserve for accountants, full stop. An internal auditor should not be worrying about financial statement audits. They should be worrying about system procedures that we use. So I, on my own, have been doing that. It may be now we as an institute, we are going to take it on. Again, it will be part of our module 8. That is why we developed the module 8. And we are going to drive home. We are going to have workshops, seminars, and conferences that will drive and focus on only the internal control and the internal audit system at the assurance, audit and assurance department, properly manning the place. 1999, I did the training on internal audit. And I got about 8 people from the Ghana Armed Forces. At the end, I realized that their overall boss was also there. And he said, the reason why we came is every time the internal audit people will be saying some things they don't understand and they have been giving them trouble, but he wanted to know if what they have been saying is truly the truth. And he was glad that he came. And he has realized that truly what they have been asking for is the truth. And from there on, he will be their advocate. Their own boss, overall boss, will be their own advocate. And I was happy that at least I was able to change one mind who can go and make things easier for internal auditors in that particular Ghana Armed Forces. So
Right.
we accept the challenge. We accept the challenge. We do more.
Very good. So at this stage, I'm sure Mr. Ajade will go for it. Clifford. And then after that, Gilbert will come back, and then we'll be going to wrap up shortly. Mr. Ajade, go for it with your contribution.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to correct the guy who just asked, the man who just asked the question, that the problems that we are facing in this country, most of them is accountants. I want to know what is his research basis, because you are actually threatening to a zone that you don't have control over. I believe the purpose of this gathering is not to undermine another professional body, because the fact of the matter is that as an accountant, you are not only trained accounting, you are trained with diverse principles that you need to govern. So I just want to put it to him that you as a director, this program is, you are organizing for all across the globe. And I don't think the institute will ever tolerate you to organize a program where you undermine the institute. So I think that some of the comments you need to call them and speak to it. However, accounting, as a chartered accountant or as an accountant, it is not only the accounting. You have other aspects, talks about tax and other areas. So I totally agree, yes, the internal audit is not only for accountants, but their service is also needed. And then you have to understand that every institution have their policies, have their guidelines. So it is not just a one coin all over. So I believe as an institute, you should see how you can draw some comments. One comments are made on this platform, because you cannot stay with a proof that most of the situations that are happening are accountants. I don't think he understands the meaning of accountant. If he understands, then you will know how to use his words. Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Gilbert, I mean, your comments are well noted. When we get on this platform, we allow our participants to express what they're expressing. And then as they express them, we have discussions. And I believe very much that our main speaker, who is himself also is an expert in that area, has explained, and also for that matter, I believe our participants who are on the line will be able to have the balance into appreciating that what he was also trying to say is that, I mean, when you come into that auditing function, right, there are various other aspects of it in terms of having other non-accounting things that probably would have to be audited. And so there are other skill sets that can be invited on board. I believe very much that our main expert speaker made that. Having said that, I think very much that we allow our participants to make their comments and then they get clarified. So thank you so very much for really coming from that perspective. And I also believe very much that our participants who sort of commented on the accountant side was making that from a viewpoint that probably all the time that attention is given to the accountant in terms of everything that happens within the audit, and probably he wanted to sort of have that clarified. And I believe Prof gave us that clarification. So thank you so very much for that contribution. Let's listen to our last question that we'll pick from Mr. Atakra, and then we'll be rounding up. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO, and I thank Prof for a brilliant delivery. My issue is, we know that strong internal control is key in managing fraud effectively, and strong internal auditor is indispensable here. Even if the internal auditor reports directly to the board, at the same time, we know that there is a dotted reporting line to the CEO, and he is also part of management. How can he therefore make his independence more apparent without being intimidated or feeling victimized by a CEO who always wants to bully his personnel? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Prof, I'm sure you take this one.
Yes, I am glad you said that it's a dotted line to the CEO. And I mentioned it, I said, the internal audit director reports to the internal audit committee of the board, not to the CEO. The internal audit committee of the board, they are the one who promote him, supervise him, evaluate him, provide him the resources, and approve his yearly audit plans. So that temptation is there. And for that reason, proper practice, proper corporate practice is that the internal audit office, the director of internal audit, should report directly to the audit and assurance committee. That's what is the best practice. Yes, there's a dotted line. Let the CEO know what you are doing. Let him know the results of your finding, but the CEO does not control what resources you have. You report directly to the chairman or the committee on internal audit and assurance.
Thank you so very much. I believe very much that this topic, I'm sure there will be more that we can discuss. There will be more that I'm sure Prof would also want to really take us through. We had intended to start at 1 o'clock and to finish at exactly 2:30. So let me apologize that we have had to go extra, because as a moderator, I observed that many of us wanted to really ask questions and also wanted to make a contribution, and we appreciate that. We're also very thankful for really following through the programs of the Institute and taking time to be part of the program this afternoon. Indeed, we have some more seminars coming on. Please watch this space. Information will be coming out in April for April seminars that we'll be having. And we are very thankful also to Prof for really taking us through the topic this afternoon. We believe very much from the Institute that we will continue to create a platform and provide information and bring experts to have such seminars. And please, as members and as participants, feel free like you felt today, come in, contribute. Definitely, you also have some experiences in your spheres of influence. And together we sharpen ourselves, and together we learn. And so thank you very much, and we appreciate that. And we believe very much that please watch the space for the next program that we'll be having. I think that before I close, right, I'm seeing a question. Is there a question that I'm seeing? Well, I'm sure very much that please feel free. If you have further questions that has not been answered, you can reach out to me on my telephone number or at the secretariat, and please, you can get me on 0551-899-899, 0551-899 and 899. If there are some further questions that you would want to, as it were, ask or follow through. Thank you so very much. And at this stage, I'll call Dr. Rejoice Foley, a member of the Education Capacity Development and Research Committee of the Institute of Directors Ghana, to give us the final and the closing prayer. I must also indicate that for those who participated in the program, you would receive some information either in terms of the recording of the program. And so that would be reverted to yourself. Thank you so very much. And we look forward to really seeing and meeting you again at our next program, whether it will be the seminar, and as we've also indicated and alluded in the president's speech or remarks at the initial stage at the beginning, our CPD policy is being implemented, and that the various CPD credits that those members of our institute who have attended the program will be earning would appropriately be credited to them. If anyone needs further information, as I've indicated, please feel free to touch base with the secretariat or call myself, and I'm sure we'll be engaging. I'm also getting the feedback that probably for our seminars, instead of having the seminar within a period of 1.5 hours, probably would have to consider having it within 2 hours. And so the feedback is well received, and we'll be working on that with the team and the leadership. Thank you so very much, Dr. Rejoice. I yield to you, and we appreciate all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Thank you, all participants. Thanks to Mr. President, our President, Mr. Roxanne Dubega, and our Vice Chair Lady, Madam Angela Kaminapia, and all the organizers of this program. We appreciate you all. On that note, may we have a short prayer. Almighty God, we thank you for helping us to conclude this session. Thanks for the commitment and the contribution of all members as we are leaving this place. Create platforms for us that we can enhance our capacity and improve other capabilities that will let us put this knowledge that we have acquired into good use for the good of this nation and for proper demonstration of corporate governance. We thank you. Lead us all to our various destinations safely in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Rejoice. And let me thank all of you for taking time to participate in this program. Very much appreciated. Thank you so very much. And may God bless us all.